BIGBEAR.AI stock was up 15% yesterday. It's up 30% in the last week, 88% in the last month, and up 163% in the last 12 weeks. So this stock is moving up. It's looking bullish. And you haven't missed out yet. There's still a trade entry potentially tomorrow or next week, depending on which rules you use. So in this video, I'm going to share my thoughts on BIGBEAR's price action yesterday and the last few weeks, and also share some possible entry rules to consider if you want to take a position in this trending stock. Let's take a look. I'd like to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/DavidB for the 5 best stocks to buy now. Use my special link to get $200 off their epic annual subscription. Now, if you enjoy my analysis of BIGBEAR today or other stocks on my channel, you might also value my email newsletter. If you subscribe, I'll share with you professional trading tips to help you make more profits trading stocks. I'll leave a link in the description below. Check it out. So yesterday was a very bullish day for BIGBEAR, with price increasing from the open to the close around 15%. So the buyers have come back in, they're buying up the stock, and it looks as if the price wants to move higher. Looking on the daily chart for BIGBEAR.AI, we can see this stock has been trending up in recent weeks. Since this significant low of around about $2.35 back in April 2025, it has been making consecutive higher highs and higher lows, confirming the stock is trending up. And you can see I've added a trend line on the daily chart, just confirming these two significant price troughs. Up until Monday, the 23rd of June, BIGBEAR was trending up gradually, but on this day here, on the 24th of June, a Tuesday, BIGBEAR did break out. Buyers came in aggressively and price traded up and closed above this significant price level of 480. The next day, the sellers came in and BIGBEAR was sold off considerably, but it did close above this key level just. The following day, buyers came back in and price reversed. And then on the Friday, June 27th, there was some selling pressure, but price ended up closing almost at the open around 580. And then on the Monday, so the Monday of this week just gone, price opened and gapped up, opening at 627. It then reached a high of around 720 before closing halfway down the bar. Now on the Tuesday, the sellers came back. There was some selling pressure and price was traded down to this low here for around 627. But it ended up closing for the day around halfway. So there was some selling pressure, but not that much. And of course, in yesterday's session, the buyers came back. The buyers came back in a big way. BIGBEAR opened at around 655. It traded up yesterday to a peak of around 784. And it closed high. It closed high at around 756. So a bullish day for BIGBEAR yesterday. So in total yesterday, BIGBEAR increased by 15%. So a big question is, have you missed the opportunity with BIGBEAR? I don't think so. I think price looks as if it wants to move higher and perhaps go towards that target of $10. And beyond that, there's plenty more upside for a medium or long-term hold. But for a trade, I think that $10 target is reasonable. Now back on the weekly chart, you can see I've marked up some key price levels for BIGBEAR. We've got this key level up here of $16, which is the current all-time high for BIGBEAR. So long term, it could reach $16. Underneath that, the most obvious price level for BIGBEAR is $10. And that's because during this week here, during February, this is where price topped out. Buying pressure ran out. The sellers came in and price reversed. So $10 is a key level. Now, underneath that level, we've got a price peak back here that was created in February 2023. So over 2 years ago. So that level is around about 677. So I'm going to mark that one up. Under that level, you can see I've already marked up this level here around about 480. Corresponds to the price peak created in March 2024. You can see BIGBEAR, after it was moving sideways for a number of months, it did break out with a massive green bar, but then almost immediately it did reverse the following week. So this key level obviously does show there is some resistance here. And after that time, Big Bear traded down back into this sort of sideways pattern between around $1 and $2.35. And you can see I've marked up $2.35 because it does correspond to the most recent significant price trough for Big Bear created a few months ago in April 2025. This is where Big Bear came off this significant peak. It got sold off. It traded down over about 8 weeks. And it does look as if now it has found support there at 235, and you've got this big green reversal bar. Under that level, we've got this price level of around about $1.18, and you can see Big Bear traded down a number of times and found support here, particularly in October 2023, June 24, August 24 as well. So that does seem to be support for Big Bear. And underneath that, we've got the all-time low of 57 cents. So zooming in on the weekly chart for Big Bear, we can see the current price action for this stock is trading above 677 and underneath this key level of $10. And we can see based on the price action, since this low back in April, Big Bear is trending up. I've added a trend line to confirm that, considering these two price troughs, one in April and also one in June. So it is trending up, it is making higher highs and higher lows. And we can see this week of the 23rd of June, so last week, that was the breakout week for Big Bear. Lots of buyers coming in, and it has moved up considerably. And this week's bar is also looking bullish. It does look as if Big Bear wants to move higher. So the big question is now, if you're not in Big Bear already, should you buy or should you wait? Should you take a trade? It comes down to your own personal strategy. I think for a possible trade, you're not too late. We can see straight away that this $10 target, is around about 35% away from this possible entry, considering the close yesterday. So if you were to buy tomorrow, then you've still got 36% upside to that $10 target. But you would have to put your stop loss around about this level here, around about $6. And that's because we know that Big Bear can swing 20% in a week's trading. So it is more risky, there is more profit available, but you can't use a traditional 10% stop loss with this stock. It's too volatile. You have to go 20%. So a stop at $6, an entry here at around $7.57, and a profit target of $10. You've got an upside of around 35%. And you've got a risk to reward ratio of 1.74. So not bad at all. It's obviously not as good if you'd bought a bit lower down, but that's the way it goes. Depending on your rules, you could have entered this stock, on market open this week around about 629. And that of course would see you now in considerable profit. So well done if you did that. But hindsight is a wonderful thing. You can also still consider an entry either tomorrow using daily rules or perhaps next week if you're using weekly rules. So what do I mean by daily rules? How could you enter on the daily chart perhaps tomorrow? Now, BIGBEAR.AI is a volatile stock. People are speculating on this stock to try and make profits, as you do as a trader. Because it's speculative and volatile, it is difficult to get traditional trading rules on this stock because it's volatile and it moves quickly. However, for an entry on the daily chart, you might want to consider the following. Since Monday, Big Bear did trade up before having a pullback into this short-term support level of 627. And of course, yesterday, price did move up once again. The buyers came back in, and price has cleared this previous peak here from Monday's session. So based on that, you could enter the stock because it's taken out this price level here. Basically what we're saying here is the buyers have moved the price up to this level. Then the following session, sellers came in, they sold off the stock and they moved the price down to here before it closed about halfway up. Then yesterday's session, more buyers came back in, more buying occurred, and therefore the price opened low and closed high. So the buyers were in control yesterday, and prices closed well above this previous level of 721, which corresponds to Monday's peak. So therefore, the buyers are in control, and you could use this as a rule to enter Big Bear tomorrow. So an entry tomorrow at around $7.56, which was yesterday's close, would give you a potential upside of 35%. And you could put your stop at the bottom of that gap around about negative 21%. Not ideal to potentially give away this much money if the trade goes south. But based on the volatility of Big Bear, you have to put in this level of stop, I believe. 10% is too tight. We know that Big Bear can move 20% either way per day. So I think it has to be this generous just in case the market pulls back into that level. I do think potentially if it reverses, it might find support at around 628. But we also know there's a gap there and gaps like to get filled. So it might trade back and get sold off and find support into this level here at around about $6. So that's where you potentially could put your stop loss. So based on that stop around $6 and the target of $10 or thereabouts, you've got a risk to reward of around about 1.7 and a 35% upside. So still acceptable, but this is a high risk opportunity. And I think it's a similar situation if you use the weekly chart for rules. We've got these two big breakout bars for Big Bear, considering that it broke above this level 2 weeks ago, above 481. It's closed the other side, so confirming buyers are in control. It's gapped up this week, and now it does look as if the buyers want to go higher, and Big Bear is not slowing down. So when you cut out the daily noise and look at the weekly price action, it does look as if Big Bear wants to go higher, and it looks as if now it's going to close high for this week. Now, of course, if you're watching in the US, you've got a public holiday on the Friday. So you basically got one more day to perhaps enter this stock this week before waiting for next week's entry. So Thursday basically is the close for this week. So based on weekly rules, you might want to wait for this week, so Thursday's close, to close strong above this key level here of 677 and then potentially enter next week. And if you can enter around about this week's close, which could be 755, it might close higher, we just don't know yet with 1 day left, then similar to the daily entry, you've got about 35% upside to that $10 target. And I think you would have to put your stop loss at around about $6 to give Big Bear wiggle room to move. So those are some options for perhaps entering Big Bear if you're not in it already on the daily chart and the weekly chart, based on your own risk strategy and your profit goals. I've had a few questions in the comments regarding how to manage these trades, where to put your stop loss. The first thing, it's difficult. With these volatile stocks that move 10-20% day to day, it's very difficult to get traditional trading rules on them because there's so much swing and volatility day to day. Now, you need volatility to make profit, big profits, but on the downside, if the trade goes against you, you can lose a lot of money. So you have to be careful and you have to be smart about how much profit there is available and how much risk there is you might give away. So that balance of risk to reward has to be good. So if you're in the trade already, I want to give you some ideas on perhaps how you could manage this trade. So here's an example. If you entered at $6, what the trade might look like initially and what it might look like when you're in it and you're trying to manage it. So entering at $6 and setting an initial 21% stop loss, which is around $4.69, and with a profit target of $10, this would equate to a risk to reward of 3.1. So based on yesterday's close of 756, your current position, you'd be 26% in profit. So well done for that. Now the key question is how do you lock in those profits? How do you protect your downside? And should you move your stop loss? So I think for individuals who entered at $6 with that stop loss of $4.69, so right now, the stock is trading here at this level and your stop is all the way down here. So there is an opportunity to move this stop up to protect some downside. However, whilst it's tempting to move your stop loss up quite tight, perhaps up to this level here of 670 to secure some profit, I wouldn't recommend this because we know Big Bear is volatile. It can move 20% in a single day. If you look at this price action here, it broke out, it pulled back. These two bars are almost the same. So this stock is volatile. So if you did move up to here, potentially on the pullback, you might get stopped out. Of course, you might secure some profits, and that's a good thing, but you might miss the bigger move up towards $10. So overall, based on the volatility of Big Bear, and if you entered at $6 with initial stop loss of around here of 480, 479, what you could do now is to move your stop loss up to break even, which corresponds to $6 just underneath this gap. Now, this of course doesn't lock in any profit yet. It is at break even for your entry of $6. But I think overall, based on the volatility of this stock, it's a good option. We know if Big Bear reverses next week, perhaps, or even tomorrow from this price here, let's say it drops 20%. 20% is going to just be shy of that $6 stop loss. So if it swings back, you're not going to get stopped out. You're going to stay in the trade and then catch the next move up, potentially beyond this level here and towards $10. So this is the balance with these volatile stocks. It's difficult to manage. It's tempting to lock profit in right now. And you might want to do that. If you're in profit 26%, that's a great return. Well done. You might want to sell out and just take the profits and run. You might want to wait for a pullback and re-enter perhaps at $6 level and do another trade up to 10. It's up to you. It's all based on your rules and strategy. But overall, I think if you entered at 6, it is a good idea now to move your stop loss possibly up to break even, corresponding to this price level here. So Big Bear's looking great right now. Those are my thoughts on the stock today. I hope you found them useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more updates. Thanks for watching.